I'm not necessarily trying to hear all that, bro.
Right.
What I'm trying to hear is you internally, what's your problem? Like, what's wrong with you? Because when I become a father, and it will happen eventually, I'm going to have to not do what you did. So I'm trying to get some insight into this whole thing.
You
And
said that?
I did.
Welcome back to Inspiring Beauty and Believers. I am Song, and today we are going to continue our conversation with men on parental abandonment issues. So today I have with me Shannon, and he is going to discuss his life story and how he dealt with overcoming those abandonment issues. So, how are you doing today?
Hey, I'm doing very well.
Awesome. So, I know in a brief earlier, I talked about you being in the military. So, how long were you in the military?
I was in the military. There's nothing wrong with that. I was in the military from 1998 to 2006, active duty, Marine Corps. And then I got out, started to miss it a little bit, went ahead and went to the National Guard from 2006 to 2012, Arizona Army National Guard. And then 2012 pretty much ended it off right there. I think about it every now and then going back in, but so far that's all I've done. So,
well, thank you for your service. I live in a military community, so I am surrounded by them. And my grandfather, he was in the Navy, so
nice.
I think that's a very commendable thing for somebody to put their lives on the line in that way. I thought about doing it. It was a quick moment of thought, and then I was like, nah, because I don't like to be dirty like that. So going into your childhood, tell me a little bit about that.
I was pretty much just me, my brother. We grew up together. My older brother grew up together from St. Louis, Missouri. Grew up in North County, Florissant. Spent time all over St. Louis doing random crazy stuff. I think just growing up, just having a single mother, we appreciated the fact that we had a single mother and that she was doing the most for us. And I think we had instances of really, really realizing that our father wasn't around, and that wasn't really a normal thing for some households. But when I was a kid, it wasn't something that was kind of like paramount in my mind. It was more so just dealing with kind of just navigating through life in a lot of instances. Like I had a couple of situations that I still remember to this day of like this bully messing with me when I was a kid and those type of instances, and just kind of dealing with that, and dealing with going to school and, kind of, I don't know, just kind of feeling like, I don't want to say I didn't belong or I was out of place, but just like, I don't know how to put it, just like I wasn't comfortable all the time. When I was going to school, especially elementary school, I wasn't comfortable all the time. I never really felt like I gave my all as it dealt with my grades, as it dealt with schooling, stuff like that. My mother definitely expected a ton out of us, and we're intelligent kids. Like, it's no question about the fact of whether me and my brother are intelligent. He definitely got more A's and B's than I ever got. But I think more so, I was just kind of going to school, and I more so was thinking about being liked and different things like that more than I was thinking about the educational aspect of school, which was really interesting when I thought about that later in life. But so that was kind of going up through elementary school. Then going up, getting into high school, those things kind of pressed through. The the overarching thing, or the lining that I see that always goes through all of my life, or went through all of my life, was the desire to have, and I don't even know why it was there, but the desire to be with somebody, if you know what I mean. Like to have a girlfriend at a young age, to have a girlfriend elementary school, to have a girlfriend junior high, have a girlfriend high school. Like it was an important thing to me. And I really don't have any idea why that was so important. Like I really don't know, like have any idea. At least I didn't. I think now that I'm older, it turned more into a thing of, my parents didn't know how to do relationships, so I probably could do it better than they could. So I'm gonna go ahead and find, the woman of my dreams and the love of my life, and we gonna do this thing. It was kind of a situation like that after I got older and really, really thought about it. But anyway, kind of going back to high school, navigate through high school. High school was a mixture of sports and band and working as I got to my junior year in high school and all that other type of stuff. It was kind of the same story of not really giving my all as it dealt with, school and grades and everything. I did well enough to make sure I wasn't sitting there with a bunch of F's all over the floor. Right. But I didn't give my all. Like it was never a point that I gave my all. It was always a point of, I'm going to try hard, but I'm really only going to try hard enough to not have to take this class again. Like that was more so what it was than anything else, which is pretty sad, but I mean, it's a fact. It's the truth of kind of what it was. Then graduated from high school, all that stuff. To kind of go back inside of growing up, going through elementary school and high school, there was a point in time where I think we were like 11 years old, maybe. I think I was about 11 years old. And that's when I first met my father. He wasn't around the whole time. And he just so happened to come around. My mom was like, hey, this is your father, this, that, and third. I was like, oh, okay, cool. That's the dude. Okay, all right. So
it wasn't awkward at all?
It was a little bit awkward, but I'll tell you a story about myself in a second. So met him, and it was a thing where he was like, hey, I want y'all to come to my house and, spend the weekend with me and everything else. So it was like, okay, cool. That'd be dope. So we went to spend the weekend. That's when I first met my younger sister. Half sister, but my sister, we don't do that half stuff. Right. So we went ahead, me and her, or her and I still amazingly close to this day, like call each other every week, all that other type of stuff. Best friends. But went over there, messed some stuff up at the house, did a bunch of damage, whatever it is, but we had fun. That was the one time that I went over and spent time with my father up until that point, and then I didn't see him again until my junior year of high school. And in my junior year of high school, it was a situation where I was obviously going into my junior year. One of my friends walked up to me and they were like, hey, such and such was talking about you the other day, and they wanted me to ask you, do you have a sister? And I was like, I mean, I have a sister, but I haven't seen her in like a long time, whatever. And they were like, yeah, they think she goes to the junior high. And I was like, are you serious? Yeah, she should be up here. She should be up here this year. I was like, oh, that's crazy. So go ahead, go into my junior year. And then lo and behold, like the first week of school, I'm going around. I'm like, hey, have you seen such and such Passion? And then they were like, yeah, she's over there. Go ahead, go around the corner. Boom, she's right there. We go ahead and hug, everything else. Find out that they live 2 miles away from the school. I live like 5 miles away from the school. Just crazy stuff like that. So we go ahead and we have that whole situation. We have our last couple of years in high school together, all that, and all this time after that, we spent time together, all that. But I say all that to say this. There was a point in time where I went over, and this goes into the person that I am and the question that you just asked about it being awkward. Mm-hmm. there was a point in time where I went over to his house, and his mother was there, my grandmother. First time ever meeting her. We're sitting there and we're all sitting around the kitchen. We're talking, and we're talking about the elephant in the room, which is you're a father and you haven't been around. How is your son supposed to feel about that?
Mm.
He was making all kinds of excuses as to why he wasn't around, and your mother was blah, and she did, and I wasn't trying to deal with, and blah, blah. I'm not necessarily trying to hear all that, bro.
Right.
What I'm trying to hear is, you internally, what's your problem? Like, what's wrong with you? Because when I become a father, and it will happen eventually, I'm going to have to not do what you did. So I'm trying to get some insight into this whole thing.
You said that?
I did. And this rolls back into the awkwardness and who I am. From a very young age, nobody showed me what the Bible was. Nobody at all. There was a book. It was sitting on a shelf, and I sat there and was like, there's something about that book that's important. I don't know why, but it just feels like there's something important about it. So I'm like, man, I'm going to go play. So I'm going outside, playing, do my thing, whatever, live my life. Every now and then I would come back and I would be like, there's something about that book. So I'd open it up and I'd be like, this is a whole lot of words. I'm not trying to read this, put it on back. Go ahead about my business, live my life as a kid. One day I went ahead and picked it up and then was like, all right, let me go ahead and start reading some of these these and thous and those that's up in this thing. Go ahead and start reading it. Had no understanding of it whatsoever. None. But the only understanding that I did have was in reading Psalms and Proverbs. And I thought that Proverbs was very powerful as it dealt with just me reading the things that were in there, not understanding it, but understanding like an energy that was there. Mm-hmm. So I went ahead and I was like, all right, well, reading Proverbs over a course of time of reading Proverbs growing up, even being 9, 10, 11, 12, all that stuff, reading Psalms and Proverbs, because that was really the only pieces that I really could really understand, and not necessarily understand, but I got the concept that Psalms was just somebody kind of just singing about how good this individual was. And then Proverbs was somebody trying to relay wisdom onto something else, onto an individual. And I got that early. Why I got it early and how I got it early, I have no idea. I chalk it up to the Holy Spirit and I leave it at that.
Right.
So there was a point where I read a portion that said, he who gives wisdom liberally, go ahead and ask, So I'm like, all right, cool beans, go ahead and ask he who gives it liberally. Okay, give me wisdom. That's all I need. And then there was another portion that asked, he who is a father to the fatherless. And I'm like, okay, well, if you're a father to the fatherless, I don't have one. Be my father. So to me, those were the two most powerful kind of questions that I ever asked God, because I think that he showed up in the fact that when situations happened, like us having that conversation, and I'm like 16 rolling into 17, all that stuff, there were things that were coming out of my mouth that now that I look back on it, I'm like, there's no reason why I should have been asking questions the way that I was asking, or doing the things that I was doing, or being as understanding as I was being, or being as loving towards him as I was being, and forgiving and everything else as I still am today. So I just chalk it up to that. As it deals with us going forward from there, like I said, just kind of talking to him and finding out from him, or trying to find out from him, like what internally was going on inside him to figure out what I needed to do or needed not to do, in order to be a better father. What I got from that situation, in all honesty, was nothing. I got nothing from that. What I got from it was that I was going to have to kind of figure it out on my own, and I was going to have to lean on God a lot. So, interesting part is that he's a pastor too.
Was he a pastor at that time?
Yeah, he was. Very interesting. And so is my sister. My sister's a pastor too. But yeah, what I was basically saying was they might have received something from me giving them forgiveness and giving them love and actually meaning it. But for me, I got more out of that. It might be selfish, but I definitely got more out of it. I didn't have to carry another extra bag around with me for the rest of my life. And I see people carrying that bag all the time. Mm-hmm. That my father wasn't around bag, that my family on my father's side wasn't around bag, that I didn't have my father growing up coming to my basketball games, football games, track, all this other type of stuff, bags. So my goal was to just let that bag go. Like, people have issues and they don't show up for some reason. And those are things that they have to deal with. You shouldn't have to deal with it for them. So
that part, I think so. For me, I know we talk about a man's perspective, but I'm gonna just say on my side. So I grew up till I was about 12 without my dad, and so I had the physical abandonment aspect there, and then even though my mom was there, she was a single mom, but she had her own stuff that she was still working on in her life. So I had emotional abandonment issues, and I carried that stuff for a long time until I was like in my 20s. And when I really, came, because I went to church my whole life, but when I really came to Christ and really, he really just helped me to understand they did the best that they could with the experiences that they had. Like, it was never their intention and to hurt me or to abandon me in any kind of way. They did what they, in coming and talking about these things, now as an adult, I found out they went through their own abandonment issues. And so they just carried on what they already knew. And so when I really forgave and let that stuff go, God put people in my life to fill those areas for me. And then it also helped us to have a better relationship, because I didn't have that barrier between us that I won't let you get close to me because you weren't there in these parts of my life.
Yes. That's absolutely it right there.
I think I'm in full agreement with that. People have not, because they won't let this go, it affects their parenting. And that was a big thing for me. I didn't want it to affect the way that I parent my kids. I say this a lot. I heard it said somewhere, and it just stuck with me. But I want my children to have a childhood that they don't need therapy from. So and
exactly.
It's my job to work on my stuff in order to make sure that happens for them.
Yeah, exactly. That's absolute truth. What I realize is that even though, especially this day and age, even though you want to have that kind of childhood, like, your kid's gonna need therapy.
Yeah, they're gonna need therapy for something. I mean,
yeah, I know my son's got. I know he's. Even if you ask a lot of my friends, like, my son's a lot wiser than a lot of his friends, a lot wiser than as it deals with making decisions and things like that and everything else. But I mean, as we look at the world and the way that it is, and Instagram, Snapchat, Twitter, all this stuff, and see the stuff that's on there so easily accessible, everything else, like, literally, we as adults need therapy because of all this stuff, so they definitely need that. But at least if they have, I think, good guidance, I think that's the good foundation that they need. Just have somebody who's giving them good guidance and giving them wise counsel to be able to make good decisions as it deals with things, and then just be those people for them where when they need to make a decision, they're not afraid to come and say, hey, this is what's going on and this is what's happened. What do you think I should do? And they're actually looking for assistance rather than, I just got to figure this out and hide it from everybody,
Right.
So, yeah.
And I think they also need that validation and that acceptance that even if I make a mistake, I can still go to my parents and they're not going to reject me, or,
Yep.
You may not like what they did, but you don't just write them off.
Yep. I'll tell you a little story real quick. So So my son, and he's done other things too, that have kind of garnered the same reaction. But he he was looking a certain kind of way yesterday, and I was like, "What's wrong with you?" And he was like, "I ordered the wrong thing," because he's building a computer right now. He's building a gaming computer. So I was like, "All right, so you ordered the wrong thing. So you feel upset because you ordered the wrong thing?" He was like, "Yeah, I'm just mad because I couldn't get it. I'm not gonna be able to get it taken care of. It's the wrong thing, and I should have seen that it was the wrong thing." I said, "Slow down, Turbo Boost. All right, so basically, you just made a mistake. Have you looked to see if you can send it back and get your money back so you can buy the other one?" He was like, "Well, no, not yet." I said, "So let me go with this then. You're basically sitting here wallowing in the fact that you ordered the wrong thing instead of just canceling the order, sending it back, and then getting the right thing so you can get the computer built." And he was like, "Yeah, I mean, I guess." I was just like, man, if you don't get on there and find out, you don't get on there and find out how to get the right thing. And he was like, okay, okay. So he just sat there and did it. He did it while I was sitting there. Found out, did what he needed to do, all that stuff. So they take the return. So I'm like, all right, cool. So I'm like, you good? And he's like, yeah, yeah, I feel better. Okay. I said, yeah, lesson learned. Something wrong, something happens, it's wrong, whatever. If you can fix it, just fix it. Like, that's it. No reason to just wallow in it. The other part of the story is I leave. About 5 minutes later, he comes in the wrong room and he's like, "Hey, can you check and see if I used my card to order that or if it's on your card?" Because I think it was on my card. I mean, I think it was on my card. I'm pretty sure. But it might have been yours. So I'm like, So I look at my account and it's like $180 some that's out of there now. And I'm like, yeah, yeah, you ordered it on mine. Like it was about $180 some. He was like, yeah, it was. He was like, so I'm just messing up stuff left and right. I said, let's go with this. Yeah, it's $180. Yeah, it did come out of my account. Yeah, you are going to give it back. But I probably would have spent that 180 on you anyway for some reason because you needed clothes or something like that and whatever. So that's where it's going to end up going anyway. So don't feel like you messed anything up. It's just $180. I can make more money. It's not that big a deal. What I do want you to do from now on, though, I want you to pay attention, a little bit more attention to detail when you're doing stuff. Because obviously, if you had kind of been looking a little bit longer, you would have seen that it wasn't your card that was in there. It was my card on the Amazon account. So it's not a big deal. It's not a huge thing. It's not breaking my bank. It's not going to destroy anything. Our bills are paid. Everything's cool. It was a thing. The reason why I said all that was it was a thing of kind of what you were going back to, a validation of you can make mistakes. Mm-hmm. Like mistakes are okay, even if they're financial mistakes. Like millionaires and billionaires become that way because they're not afraid to make financial mistakes. So if you make the mistake, it's okay. Just don't make the mistake a bunch of other times. Like this time is fine. Make sure next time just do a little bit more digging before, so you don't have to worry about trying to make that mistake again. But I think that allowing your kids to make mistakes and not blowing up on them just because they did make a mistake, even if it's a money one, a financial one, whatever it is, because people put so much on money and so much on, all that stuff. Like literally, it just gives them, I think it gives them more of the leeway not to just continually make the mistake because the money is not important, because obviously we need it for a reason. It's a tool. But it's hopefully we'll say, hey, yeah, you made a mistake, but it's not the end of the world. Right. So you're okay. So
I had a similar conversation. It wasn't $180 conversation, but with my son a couple of weeks ago. We went to go get some food for dinner, and we got home, and I don't know what he was doing. He went to put the drinks on the table, and then he accidentally knocked it over, and every drink just fell all over the floor. And I'm like, just clean it up. And after he cleaned it up, he went and sat in the room and in the dark and was pouting. So, and he's 15. And I went in there and I was like, why are you mad? He's like, I'm not mad. Okay. Well, you're sitting in the dark pouting, and we're about to eat. And so what are you mad for? He was like, I just, I spilled all the drinks, and now nobody has their drinks, and that was wasted money. And I was like, I don't care about their drinks. Like, if it's that big of a deal, we can go buy more drinks. It's really not that big of a deal to me. I said, I care more about you, and that you don't beat yourself up over a mistake than I do about the money that was spent for these drinks, because that can be replaced. But if this is going to mess up your self-image, your self-esteem over a mistake, then we have some more stuff that we need to talk about, because what is it that's in you that's causing this feeling? And I think because we are in this society where they see all of this stuff on social media, they're so sensitive about being accepted by everybody, by being liked about everybody. And I was like, this is not that big of a deal. I'm not going to throw you out the house because you done spilled my peach Sprite on the floor that I really wanted to drink. I really wanted peach Sprite. But
shameful, still thinking about it. That's hilarious.
But I think that it's important, to have these conversations with your kids, because something that people don't understand is that kids, they may not just go through, the physical abandonment, but they have emotional stuff that they're dealing with. And, they're constantly dealing with that fear of rejection in this generation. And a lot of times that stems from, they can be in the household with their parents, but if they don't have that connection where they can go to their parents and talk to their parents and stuff, they feel alone. You can grow up in a household with your family members and still feel like you're by yourself. And then how do you deal with that when you're an adult? Because now you're needy, and you try to gravitate to these relationships, trying to fill a void that should have been filled with the acceptance and love and validation from your parents.
Exactly. Yep. You said that right there. That's exactly it.
So in closing, do you have anything that you would share? I know you said you were able to forgive your father. Are you still in contact with your father today?
Yeah, I'm still in contact with him. We don't talk that often. And that's just been our relationship. We don't talk that often. We talk maybe 2-3 times a year. But there's no animosity. There's no ill will, anything like that, no bad feelings or anything like that. We, interestingly enough, my father and I look almost exactly alike. Like, we look almost exactly alike. It's a crazy thing. Once I got like a lot older, and once I really realized that. But it's just one of those things, like, we have similar personalities, all that other type of stuff. We're when we get on the phone and we talk to each other, like, we have a ton to say. Like, it's always a good time. No bad stuff. Like, it didn't take me a long time to, get through stuff and dig through a lot of stuff to be able to have those moments with them and all that type of stuff, and I just kind of, because I don't really think you're going to get an answer that you're going to be satisfied with, as it deals with needing closure in a lot of instances anyway. So I rarely even look for closure in most situations. I close the door myself. I don't look for closure within the situation, and just allow the situation to be what it is. So. But I don't know if I think that answered the first half of your question, but I think you were asking, was there anything? No, go ahead.
Yeah, what is there anything that you would share with any men that may be watching, that they may still be dealing with the hurt? But I think you closed the door on that.
Yeah. In all honesty, as it deals with that, like, I have a lot of friends that have dealt with this particular situation, not having their father around, being raised by a single mother, and everybody's situation is different. So I'm very cognizant of the fact that in everybody's situation being different, there are going to be certain things that are going to be a lot easier for me to do because of my perception of reality than it is going to be for somebody else to do. So the only advice I can really give to another man that's going through this situation, really just any individual that's going through a situation like this, is to look at the situation honestly and determine what your feelings are about the situation. Be honest about your feelings about the situation. And then decide whether those feelings are serving you or whether they're not. Because if they aren't serving you, you can always change them. Like, you can always change your mind about things if it's not serving you what your actual visceral reaction is to the whole situation. But I think the getting deep down within yourself and being honest with yourself is always the first step.
I agree.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I thank you guys for joining us today. I hope that you get down within yourself and evaluate those feelings that you have. Like this, comment, share with everybody that you know, especially the people who need it, because y'all know y'all gonna say somebody needs to hear this and you need to share it with that person. But use it for yourself too first. So I love you guys. Thank you for joining us today, and I'll talk to you next time.